Hi, this is the Philosophical Angle program, and I'm your host, Chris Angle. I'm the author of 4 books on philosophy, one of which is The Philosophical Equations of Economics. They're free for viewing and available as an attachment at philosophypublishing.com. Along with me is my panelist and colleague and co-host, Rick Samuelson. Rick graduated from Yale, and Wharton is a venture capitalist on the West Coast. Good to see you, Rick.
And you.
The purpose of the philosophical angle is to examine the nature of concepts being used in current media, and this week the media is all upset and just alive and abuzz with President Trump's sudden negotiations with the Democrats. And so the title of this episode is going to be Political Competition, President Trump and his newly acquired friends on the Democratic side. So there's been much to do about Trump beginning negotiations with the leaders of the Democratic Party, and he's done so to obtain his objectives. Of course, he'll have to do some horse trading, give up some of the things that are on his agenda. Well, he's going to have to give up some of the, in order to get something that's on his agenda, he's going to have to give up some things that are on their agenda, naturally. When you're in a situation that calls for compromise, we all have to give up something to get something. And there once was a fairy named Nuff. Fair enough. But the question remains in everybody's mind, why does he go to the other side? I know the conservative talk show hosts are worried about this because he's meeting with the Democrats. And some talk show hosts are very, very worried about it. But the philosophical angle is not so worried about it. First, the Republicans have not been able to give him any of his objectives that he's outlined during his campaign when he was running for president. They couldn't deliver a repeal or a repeal and replace of the Obamacare program. So that they did so well previously, and often during the years of the Obama administration. Many times they offered and passed a repeal or a repeal and replace. I don't remember what it was. But of course, President Obama vetoed it. But nevertheless, they passed it. And now, suddenly, when they're in the majority, they can't pass the thing. The word hypocritical comes to mind, but you know, maybe I'm being too cruel. Secondly, on the other topics that the Trump administration looks to achieve, such as lower taxation, the Republican Congress has not been able to deliver anything. The wall on the Mexican border has also been a non-starter, and it was actually I actually heard in a news report that Speaker of the House Paul Ryan has said that the wall is not going to be built at all. So I don't know what to believe there, but and on the Senate side, the Republicans complained that they need 60 votes in order to pass anything. They declared that they're not going to waive the 60 vote requirement, which is a Senate rule, and they're not going to bring it down to 50 like the Democrats have done in the past to get something that's important to them passed. They've lowered it. They've gotten rid of the filibuster rule. So essentially, both houses have declared to President Trump that they're not going to deliver anything, or possibly not going to deliver much of his agenda. It does seem that they are working on a tax package, but really, who can believe them? So the House and Senate Republicans are probably not going to deliver anything, or not much, and so President Trump does a surprising move, or perhaps it's not so surprising. He begins to negotiate with the Democrats to at least get something of his agenda through. He's being pragmatic and looking to at least be able to get part of his campaign promises through the Houses of Congress and bring it to law. And I'd like to surmise that the most important piece of legislation in his administration is the tax package. And really, the corporate tax package is probably the most important thing to him and to his administration, and it should be to the Republicans as a whole. President Trump has noted that the United States is out of line with the rest of the world with regard to its taxation being way too high, and I believe it's in the area of 39%. And other countries in the Western world can be as low as 15%, such as Ireland, and thus corporate profits remain overseas, and they're held in these low taxation countries in order to promote growth of their corporation. And President Trump would like to see the U.S. tax policy become competitive. So, speaking of competition, this is what is he employing now with his negotiations with the Democrats. He's bringing competition to the Republicans. And this is very interesting. And why would he do this? Because, well, I think he's doing it because everybody knows competition brings efficiency and performance to any marketplace, including the political marketplace. And the winner of any competition will do well in this next political election, no matter which side wins in this little, to bring forth the best package. So why does the philosophical angle weigh in on this development? It's because it brings up a good opportunity to talk about the nature of competition and why it brings goodness and why it could bring goodness to the political arena of ideas. And so I want to ask, what is within competition that will make the participants perform where production and results were not there before? What is it about competition that makes markets more efficient? And so let's find out. Well, let's first define competition. Competition is the convergence and divergence of a priority by two or more entities. What did I just say? Well, okay, to explain. All of life's decisions for any of life's entities is that we do things in order to bring goodness into our lives. Our decisions are made to bring goodness into each of our lives. And that's and so every decision that we make is the setting up of a sacrifice in order to achieve a reward. And the reward is used to the betterment of our life. However, sometimes in the course of our constructing our sacrifice, in order to achieve a reward, another entity will have the same objective. And it'll have the same objective of making the same type of sacrifice to achieve a reward resulting from the similar sacrifice. And when another entity has the same priority and works to achieve the same priority, this is the convergence of what I call the law of competition. And you can see it everywhere you look in the economic marketplace. Take a look at the car market. Many companies throughout the world come to the U.S. automobile market to sell their automobiles, and the international corporate entities they all have the same priority, which is to sell to the same set of buyers inside the United States. But something else goes on within competition. Once the automobile companies are here selling the automobiles into the marketplace, they undergo something what I call divergence of their products. That is, They try to make their cars a little bit different from all the other ones that are within the marketplace. They are trying to diverge away from direct competition. And they do this by they create new attributes, new features within their products, and such as styling, the engine, the size of the car, the engine size, the engine performance, the price, and the list goes on. The variance is tremendous because the marketplace is large and itself. And why do they do this? They do this because direct competition is inimical. It's inimical to oneself and throughout all of life. They do this because the resources pertaining to the priority is limited, and that's when the reward is limited, and when life entities compete for the limited prioritized limited reward, there comes less reward available. And so competition is basically, and I mean direct competition, is inimical to all of life. Thus competition produces a convergence. It differentiates. Competition produces a will to differentiate and causes this divergence, which causes goodnesses. And all of life does this. So my conclusion here is that a little competition in the political arena generated by the Trump administration is going to cause the parties in Congress to compete, and I think it's a good thing. So I'm going to ask Rick, what does he think about all this going on with President Trump now talking with the Democratic Party? What do you think, Rick?
Well, it does harken back to the era of Ronald Reagan, who actually was up against a Democratic majority and was still able to get much of his legislative priority through over time, not immediately, over time. But this is reaching across the aisle is a long-standing practice in the United States at the presidential level. Nothing new. It sort of fell into abeyance under Obama because he simply wouldn't do it. But that's not the norm. So in a sense, history is repeating itself. No one's going to be happy with any of the everyone will be unhappy with elements of whatever the compromise is. I personally don't favor allowing the DACA dreamers to get citizenship because I still think they broke the law. Their parents broke the law. It's going to serve as a magnet. But if that's the price for getting E-Verify through or other legislative priorities like that, that's the way it's going to roll out. Neither side can get everything they want. I think the way the American public will view this will work enormously to President Trump's favor. I think the American public, at least the average person, Democrat or Republican, says, pox on both your houses. They recognize the Republicans for what they are, obstructionists in many respects. The Democrats are no better, and probably worse. And just as important, and I think reasserts Trump's authority. It's a smackdown to McConnell. It's a smackdown to John McCain. Very direct, very obviously. He's shown them up for what they are. Did I like the fact that he negotiated to the Democrats to delay the debt ceiling negotiation? Not particularly. It should be addressed sooner rather than later. But was it the right decision to get the funds to the victims of the recent hurricanes? Of course, obviously. And that's the way it's going to be viewed by the American public. I don't care whether you're Democrat or Republican. It was obvious that needed to be done. It needed to be done quickly. And if you had to give away something for that by way of a more distant and more fractious negotiation, it was still the right call. So, I think Trump is returning to form in terms of how presidents have historically acted. And also, I think he's bolstered his leadership image at the expense of both the Democratic and the Republican legislators, but particularly the Republican.
Will he alienate his base?
No, because there are a lot of the base that think, get rid of McConnell, get rid of John Flake, get rid of McCain. They're not doing what they're supposed to do anyway, so they're as bad as the Democrats.
Okay.
And they're actually they actually are increasingly, I think, trusting Trump.
Yeah, there's I think the lawyers have a saying that if everybody walks away from a deal unhappily, it was a good deal.
Yeah, right. That's right.
So, okay. So maybe competition as bringing in the Democrats is something that's good. We'll see. Rick, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Philosophical Angle.
All right. Thank you.